You know what's so funny though is I was texting a friend of mine late September. This was September 24th of this past year. I was texting him and he was like, dude, why don't you do cleats or something, man? Like it would be so like it would be cool. There's not that many people that could do it. You could definitely do it. And dude, my response was so stupid because it was just kind of like, oh, I like the sneaker thing for now, and I think because again, there's no football tie, there wasn't
Yeah.
anything really, so I was like, I think I'm just gonna keep with. Plus, it was a different machine too, so I would have needed a completely different sewing machine to take on cleat work. So I was just kind of like, I don't have the right machine, and it's just, I think I'm just gonna do the sneaker thing for a while, but who knows? 3 days later is when his manager, Jalen's manager, ended up texting me again. And he was like, so the 27th of September, and he was like, hey, man, do you have time to jump on a quick call? And I said, yes. So we jumped on a call and he told me, he was like, hey, Jalen is recovering from his surgery and he's going to be coming back to play, sooner. I think they were looking at like week 10 or week 8, I think is when he came back actually. So they were like, yeah, we're kind of projecting 8, 9, 10 kind of being where he's returning, or would you be able to do that? Are you interested in doing that? They gave me the whole backstory and telling me that he was playing in his cleats and that, but I didn't really get too much context on what their plan was. More so just that he had
Yeah.
gotten a cleat produced, he was going to be wearing that new cleat and wanted to debut them in a cool way. So they wanted to he was like, can you do a pair per week until the end of the season basically. And at that point, I mean, yeah, I was like, absolutely. Without a doubt, I was like, oh, I want to do it. So I bought that new machine that I was talking about, and we just started the process. They sent me the cleats. I was able to kind of work
Yeah.
it. Another call. Everyone's calling me now. I'm so popular all of a sudden. Um, but sorry about that. So they sent me the cleats, and then I just started basically kind of trying to figure out how I was going to do it. I kind of had an idea, you know what I mean? I knew I was going to be building a shell for the outside of the shoe, and then attaching it somehow right to the outside of the cleat. I pretty much knew that going into it, but everything else, it was like we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants and trying things. And I don't know if you saw my most recent post from, yes, I think it was 2 days ago. It was like this white Tiffany pair that I did, but I wrapped the sock liner in Python, thinking that I had left these two small little relief cuts in the middle, thinking like that was going to really do anything, but he got them and couldn't even get them on. Um, so they were scrapped. So he couldn't end up using them, but it was, first of all, I do want to say this, like, he's been so cool. He was like the nicest guy and so easy to work with. Like, I can't say enough good things about him and his manager. Absolutely amazing. Like, I hope I work with them forever. Um, but yeah, we were really kind of like figuring it out as we went, and just sort of figuring out what was
Yeah.
working, what wasn't working. And I'm learning his style because he's, has a particular taste and wants things to, he has preferences just like we all do. And, um, you know, so I feel like towards the end of the season was when I really started to like learn him better. And I knew if I, what I could send over and knew what he'd be into and kind of knew what he wouldn't be into. And so it was a lot of fun, man. It was really fun getting into it, and it gave me a lot of confidence to continue to branch out and that the skills really do translate over when, and before there was a big doubt that they would.
Yeah. Well, and that's like one of the things that's interesting to me is obviously you breaking into this space, but like we talked about before, when Jalen came out in the cleats, it was like, oh, he's got these crazy cleats. They're his own thing. We posted about him, all that stuff, yada yada. But then, like, I didn't even know that when he first came out, he was going to be wearing customs. Like, I was just like, oh, of course he's going to wear, his own thing. And then it's like Halloween, I think, was the first week, and so he was wearing a pair of Halloween cleats. I was like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Halloween makes sense. But then the next week and the next week, there were still customs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so we thought at that point you were going to get like in the same way for like, so you said with like Dana, like flooded with messages, but like you told me, like, I think you said like it didn't really react the same. Like you weren't like, it's not like NFL guys were just like hitting you up left and right for stuff?
At all. I mean, like at all. It was pretty surprising. I had a gentleman hit me up yesterday. Um, so we'll see where that ends up going, but for next season. But I mean, I was I don't necessarily want to just flood my because I love the sneakers ultimately. You know what I mean? The craft is great, and I love doing cleats. Don't get me wrong, but I love sneakers. Like I love doing sneakers.
Yeah.
It's my thing. So I want to keep it in the mix. I don't want to only have cleat work, but also like I mean, it would be I should be so lucky to have, you know, multiple athletes that want pairs done throughout the whole season. I mean, like I welcome it with open arms. I think it would be so much fun. I just I guess I just am happy and grateful that Jalen had a good experience with me. He you know, expressed his gratitude multiple times. Like I said, he's so nice and really appreciative with the hard work that I was doing. Way more than than he had to be. Like I said, he's just such a nice guy. But yeah, it was really great, and I'm looking forward to you know doing something special for the Pro Bowl for him. That's at least the plan now. We don't really know exactly what pairs we're doing or pair we're doing, but I'm excited either way to have you know one last good crack
Yeah.
at it and put a nice bow on the season. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think more will come. I think really it was a we were halfway through the season when it happened. So I think it's one of those things
Yeah.
if you're a guy that wants my type of work, you already looked into it. You know what I mean? Like you probably already had if you were going to do it, you already knew you were going to do it going into the season most likely. That's the way I like to look
Yeah.
at it. You already reached out, you already, you know, were putting stuff on and thankfully I think too because I didn't have any other athletes that I was working on, me and we could get things done super quickly on Jalen's side, and I know that he was happy about that. You know, especially when you kind of get to those later weeks and you get to the playoffs, it's like you know, you don't want to make a cleat just to make a cleat and then something happens and they lose or whatever. So it was nice to be able to just like, you know, have a pair, have a week happen, and then we can be right back to it because he was my only
Yeah.
NFL guy. I knew at least one day a week I had to dedicate to getting his cleats done. You know what I mean? Like that was my
Yeah.
block and I could always focus on it. So I think it worked out. It worked out really well for him getting kind of his, you know, I should dipping his toes into the custom thing, right? But it was also perfect timing for me because I didn't really have too much on my plate, and you know, it was a really nice, consistent challenge for me that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was really fun to work on them and you know see what worked and what didn't. It was a big learning experience.
Yeah. Like honestly, it'd kind of be interesting to have your perspective and then someone like Sean the Don. So like
Mm.
Sean is a cleat customizer and like he broke on the scene when he did the Byron Murphy Croc cleats where he did the
Mhm.
yellow Crocs with like the Crocs
Oh
on the
yeah,
back and the cutouts and stuff, right? Those went everywhere. And like that's when I first learned about him and he blew up. But
yeah.
like where you're saying you have time and like one person, Sean, um, he kept like we were talking to him and he was like, oh, like things are gonna slow down, things will slow down. And like he was saying that to us in September and it only sped up. And
Mm,
like you look and like this week still he's doing like 3 to 4 pairs per week, all custom.
yeah.
And like his biggest guy is Debo Samuel, who's in that
Mhm.
same tier as Jalen as far as like A tier brand goes.
Yeah.
And he's doing like for playoffs, like a custom Travis Scott for pregame, and then another one to actually wear. Like he wears a lot of what's the Devin, what's the Jordan? It's the cherry.
11
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
patent leather.
And yeah, and so he wears a ton of those, and it's like I think about him and I'm like, God damn man, like as soon as the season's done, like you need a fucking break. Like
Dude, he's grinding, dude. Sean's my I mean, we've we've talked a little bit through DMs. He's a super nice guy, but he's definitely one of those guys to me that like was doing it when I was doing it. Like when I was looking to
yeah,
see hey, who's really active in the cleat thing. It was Croak, it was Coda, it was him, and I don't paint too. You know what I mean? So it's also very specific. There's some amazing customizers that are straight up paint. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, gosh, yeah, Sean's works amazing. Croak Croak, I think that's how you pronounce it, Coda Customs as well. All those guys,
Mhm.
they're doing amazing things, and I'm glad to see other people sort of pushing pushing the boundaries a little bit on the custom cleat thing. I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah.